This is an add-on guide for the Create Factory Must Grow mod. This mod adds oil to Minecraft, as well as ways to find mining and processing it. New items will also be added and the standard crafts from the Create mod will change. And this is only a small part of what is in this mod. Let's figure it out. Let's start with generation. This mod adds new types of blocks that you can find in the world. Fossil stone or fossil found in the ordinary world, in such round deposits, which are usually hollow inside and filled with crude oil, which can be used later. But not everything is so simple. These blocks are mined for a very long time, even with non-Zerite tools. And after its destruction, a piece of fossil will fall out, which can be used as fuel. Next will be lignite. This block can also be found in the regular world, and when crushed in crushing wheels you will get coal. And in the hellish dimension you will find blocks of sulfur, which can also be crushed in crushing wheels, getting sulfur powder that can be used to create gunpowder. In addition, in the overworld, you can find bauxite deposits, which are needed in large quantities to create aluminum. And an interesting fact or developer error. If you start grinding bauxite in crushing wheels right away, you won't get aluminum. It can even be seen in recipes. But if you process this block, for example, on a mechanical one or something like that, you can crush the resulting block and get aluminum from it. Do you think this is a developer flaw or is it intended? Write about it in a comment. Well, the most interesting thing is now in the world you can meet such an unusual bedrock, which is filled with oil and in fact is an oil field. In addition, some recipes in the mod itself have changed. For example, a mechanical drill can now only be crafted at the faucet. And in the recipe there will be a new item drill tip, which can be made by sawing a block of steel of a new material. The recipe for copper hulls has also changed. First you need to make a special adhesive for waterproofing and use it to click on any boards. They will become waterproof, and then click on these new boards with a copper ingot, and they will become a copper body. And, of course, the whole process can be automated. And now let's talk about the new materials that this aluminum mod adds. We have already talked about him. Cast iron, which is made from iron and coal in a mechanical mixer. Coke coal, which is more efficient than ordinary coal, and is also made in the mixer. Steel, which is made from iron and already coke coal, is also in the mixer. Thermite dust, which is made by pressing, and it is needed in order to make thermite. Explosive, which is highly flammable. Nitrates, which are obtained from the earth by grinding it in crushing wheels with a probability of 20%, and charcoal dust, which is also made in them. And if sulfur is added to these two ingredients, then you can produce gunpowder in the same sawdust mixer, which can be obtained by cutting boards on a mechanical saw that can be compressed and get a block of sawdust. By the way, it has the same physics as the sand, it will fall. And if you right-click on this block with glue while holding shift, it will turn into chipboard. Can you already make some decorative blocks from chipboard? But, alas, the author did not think through one moment to put glue in an autonomous activator and automate all this. You need to right-click on the activator. And by doing this, you start highlighting the building with glue? But I would like, on the contrary, to put glue in the hand of the activator. You can do this, but you need to go for some tricks. But I would like the author to correct this a little. Also, this method adds steel analogs of mechanisms from the usual Create mod. Why? Unclear. After all, they have exactly the same characteristics. Well, an industrial barrel appeared, which differs from the usual vanilla one in that it is resistant to explosions. Now let's talk about the surface scanner, which is needed in order to look for oil deposits, namely bedrock, in which there is oil. First, put on the engineering goggles from the Create mod and then place the surface scanner somewhere near you and give it a rotation from this side. And after some time pointing at this block, you will see the coordinates of the oil field. In addition, there is another option how you can find an oil field in bedrock. There is such a special hammer, prospector tools walking around the world and clicking it on the ground. You will see this message sooner or later. It means that somewhere below you is a bedrock with oil inside. So, we have found an oil field, and now we will lead an industrial pipe from this field directly to the surface, where we will have the next mechanism. It is important that this pipe is installed only vertically. And advice to make these pipes quickly and efficiently. Make the first batch of steel on a stone cutter. Then place the resulting pipe into the filter slot on the mechanical saw. And you will no longer have random recipes, but only this pipe will be made. And now we will build an oil production station. But first we need to prepare, and we need a pump jack base. Pump jack hammer holder, pump jack crank machine input steel truss. A whole 2 pieces. We laid the pipe and at its end we put a pump jack base. Then we go 1 block and put in 2 steel truss, then back off another block and put in a machine input. And pay attention to this line. She should be in the back. And put pump jack crank on top of this block and put pump jack hammer holder on steel truss. And most importantly, friends, in order for everything to work for you, you must check how you put the blocks. Pay attention to this red dot. If she looks to the right, then the design should be on the left. I will remove this. And pay attention to these 2 pixels. They should look in the direction when you assemble the structure. Now let's turn it around. If the speed is low, then the mechanism will not work. Everything worked for me from 20 units, and as I understand it, the rotation speed affects the production speed. And if you follow the pump jack base, then you will find out how much oil has been produced now and how much is left in this field. And you can extract oil from this mechanism using any mechanical pump. If you connect it to the pump jack base, let's move on. We will pour the extracted oil into distillation towers, so now we'll talk about them. In these towers, the oil will be broken down into fractions, or constituents, under the action of temperature, and these constituents can be used as fuel or as components for other recipes. By the way, in my Telegram, I posted schemes for the Create mod, in which there is already a built distillation tower and an oil production station, which is very convenient and simplifies their installation in the world. But with this method of installation, the upper units of the distillation towers are not installed correctly. So break them down and put them back together to start with. Distillation towers come in 2 sizes, 2x2 and 3x3. In version 3, there are 3 more burners, respectively. The decomposition of oil into components occurs faster. Let's prepare the following blocks in advance. Steel distillation controller, 1-piece distillation tower output. They need 4 units of industrial pipes, steel truss. It is present in the auxiliary scheme, but the towers work without it. You will also need 4 flash burners. If you have it in the size of 2x2 or 9 burners, if 3x3, for the small tower, where we have 2x2, you will need 44 steel liquid tanks, and for a large one, respectively, 90 blocks of steel liquid tanks. We will proceed to their construction. We put 4 burners, because we will have a small tower, and then 4 steel liquid tanks. And we should have 11 layers of liquid tanks in height for a total of 44. Then, on either side, on the first layer of liquid tanks, we put the controller, and on the controller we put the distillation tower output, and we already put an industrial pipe on it and repeat this 5 times. Why exactly 5? Because when laying out oil, we get 5 components, and, in fact, through these blocks we will pump out these new types of liquids. Now let's build a 3x3 distillation tower. The first layer consists of 9 burners and then we will have layers of steel liquid tanks. But in this case, there will already be 10, not 11. Then we install the controller and fluid outlets with industrial pipes in the same way. In total, we should get 5 of them. Well, in order for everything to work, you must fill the burners with fuel, and feed crude oil to the controller. And after some time, if you wear engineering glasses and look at the distillation tower output, you will notice that new liquids will begin to appear in them: heavy oil, diesel, gasoline, kerosene and LPG, and they can already be safely pumped out using pumps and pipes. By the way, temperature greatly affects the rate of production of these components. Therefore, you can overheat your burners and everyone will work even more efficiently. In addition, you can increase the efficiency of the tower by adding additional layers of liquid tanks. Focus on this indicator on one of the faces or by looking at the tower itself with engineering glasses. And you'll notice what you're missing in temperature or extra layers. There is also another distillation tower in this genus. Let's get ready to build this tower. To get started, you will need a cast iron distillation controller and 3 distiller blocks. Place the controller and 3 distiller blocks on top of the burner. And in order for this tower to start working, you must first activate the burner and supply the controller with heavy oil. Not the crude oil that you produce, but the heavy oil that you get in the previous towers after processing the crude oil. It is important, and after refining heavy oil, you get sulfur dust, grease and diesel. These liquids are easy to extract using mechanical pumps, and to extract sulfur, put some kind of gateway to the controller so that the sulfur falls out. If you do not provide a constant output of sulfur, then the tower simply will not work. And now let's talk about engines that run on fuel that we already know how to produce. Now we will talk about gasoline engines, LPG engine and turbine engine. The recipes for building these engines are very complex, and they are made in sequential assembly. Therefore, I advise you to install the JEI mod in order not to get confused. If you follow the recipe, then you will get 2 parts of one engine. Take any of them and convert them to the back of the engine. All the engines that I just talked about, they consist of 2 parts, front and rear. And now we put on engineering glasses and prepare the engines for launch. Fuel is supplied to the front of the engine, not to the rear. Therefore, connect pipes to it. Well, useful information. Engine on gasoline and LPG is clear what they work on. But the turbine engine runs on kerosene. Remember this. Then we need to send a redstone signal to our engine. By the way, the strength of the redstone signal affects the speed of the engine, so I will use an analog lever. Starting any engine at the rear of the engine, exhaust will begin to accumulate, which must be disposed of in order for the engine to continue its work. By the way, the exhaust is implemented as a liquid, and the author showed in his scheme that it is possible to make an exhaust pipe, but this is not necessary. You can just put a mechanical pump in and out of the back of the engine, pump the exhaust out into the world. It won't develop as a liquid. Now let's talk about diesel engines. They consist of 2 parts of the engine itself and the shaft to which it is attached for its work. The engine requires diesel fuel, but in the process it will accumulate exhaust, which also needs to be extracted from it by mechanical pumps. In addition, by looking at the face of the motor, you can change the direction of rotation. And if you install the engines next to each other in the following way, then their power will be summed up, and these chains can be of unlimited length. In addition, there are so many options for how you can install them. Let's talk about concrete production in this mod. It is of 3 types: ordinary concrete, reinforced concrete and mesh concrete. The latter, by the way, is the most durable. The second is a little worse, but, alas, none of the types of concrete will protect you from an explosion. Let's talk in general. How to make concrete. First, you must find limestone in the world and crush it in crushing wheels, thereby obtaining limestone sand. Then we mix limestone sand with clay in a mixer and get cement. Then we add water, cement, sand and gravel to the mixer, and at the output we get liquid concrete. We fill buckets with this liquid concrete. And then we have 2 options for what can be done. Either we pour this bucket into the world, and after some time we will have hardened concrete. Now you can use some dyes on it, and it will change its color, or click on it with a grid. Thus, you will strengthen it. Reinforced concrete can also be painted with dyes, or another option. Our bucket, in which we combine liquid concrete in the window of the workbench with 4 units of reinforcement, getting a bucket of reinforced concrete. This is a bucket. You can also pour it, and after hardening you will get a block of reinforced concrete. Unfortunately, it is less durable than mesh reinforced and cannot be painted. As for me, the mechanism, very interesting, but not fully implemented. I would really like this concrete to be able to quickly pour over large areas. For example, using the hoses from the Create mod, and we move on. Meet Napalm Dynamite. He has weak explosive power, but when it explodes, it sprays fire particles over a long distance, thereby setting fire to the area around. And to create this napalm, you will need 6 aluminum ingots and buckets filled with napalm, and by combining gasoline with aluminum in a mixer, you will get liquid napalm itself, which can already be poured into buckets. And finally, this mod adds an improved potato gun that can shoot 4 products at a time, provided that all 4 products are the same. And if you have different ones, then you shoot only one. All other mechanics are exactly the same as the regular potato gun. And with that, we'll say goodbye.